Thank you again for joining us in cooperation with the Southeastern Quilt and Textile Museum and myself, Laura Bosma, Pretty Penny Precuts. We have a series of 4 fun to stitch projects for summer camp. And we're going to move on and prepare your fun pouch for fusing or pressing the motifs on. You will need access to an iron, some water, and some kind of a firm pressing surface. Your ironing board is fine. And again, thank you for joining us. This is the Fun Pouch Project 1. So this is the fun pouch in its finished form. And so let's work through that. And this is step 2 in your written directions. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to go ahead and place your opened kit, the items from your open kit, onto a firm surface and get those ready. So this is my die cut blanket. Again, we're only designing 1/3 of this. And so here we are. Add to the things that you'll need at home a couple of straight pins or a pencil. I mentioned in the earlier video that just by virtue of having it tri-folded into the kit pouch, there are some soft fold lines. We're going to need to keep track of those. You probably don't want to iron them in too hard just yet. You can either put 4 straight pins in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, to remind you where those folds should be, or maybe better yet, so that you're not getting poked by the straight pins, is simply turn to the wrong side, figure out where those folds are, and just make about a 1/4 inch long little pencil mark or a dot. That's all we need, just to remind us where the folds are going to be in the fun pouch. Again, looking at just decorating or designing this 1/3 of the pouch is where we're at. We have about 4 inches by 7 inches to work with, maybe 3.5 by 7 inches to work with. There usually are no hard and fast rules when I talk about my kits and how you should use them, but there is just one, especially for this project. You need to keep your motifs, that's what we're going to call these fun shapes, away from the edge, because we've got to come by and blanket stitch on this later. So we don't want something way out here interfering with that. We want to keep it in somewhere between 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. So having access to a tape measure or a ruler might be a really good idea as well. I'm just going to move these things over so that you can see them. So noting that, again, I can see my soft fold here. I've got this much to design on. Working from the background to the front, I'm going to start here and put on the words fun. One interesting thing about using the light Steam-A-Seam 2 fusible, you can see it on the back of this flip-flop, the grid side is just housing or covering the sticky side, which is underneath it. But in the case of using something that's straight, or in this case the words, as long as that waste paper stays on your fusible or your motif, it's going to act like paper and be very stiff. When you remove the fusible, again, that's the white gridded stuff, you'll see it looking like this. It almost looks frosted, and that's the sticky fusible. And notice I just touched it and it followed me, so I'll show you how sticky it is. That's how sticky it is. Once you take the paper away, it will act more like fabric, and you will be able to manipulate it or move it or stretch it a tiny bit or squish it some. If I wanted this to look a little bit more interesting, maybe I want to loop it a little bit. And notice that you can do that once the paper is removed. So that looks cute. Maybe you want it, I put the fun here on the original design. Maybe you want it here, and you want to kind of follow the contour of the bottom of the pouch. That certainly can be done. You can design, and I call it I want you to place, replace, position, and reposition these motifs, again, remembering where we're designing, just here, until design satisfaction is achieved. So you do it until it makes you happy. It's your project. I want you to be creative with it and do something fun with it. Again, by taking the paper away, I can manipulate that U. It seems to have the most room for manipulation, and I can push the F in a little bit. I can push the N down a little bit. I can squish the U up a little bit and stay at least a 1/4 of an inch away from here and at least a 1/4 of an inch away from my soft fold. So that's the first thing that I placed. Now note that with the cutout, I've given you the whole piece. Why did I do that? Well, it doesn't matter whether you cut it by hand or you die cut it like me or you used a rotary cutter. There's always going to be a little bit of waste in an applique type project, but you can see it even better from the wrong side. So here's my fun. Note that I did edit out the word sun. Maybe you don't want flowers on yours and you're going to write fun and sun straight, or you're going to put fun and sun curved. You can certainly do that. This is for you to play with. It left 2 pretty good sized scraps right here. If you wanted more flowers, what you would do is take either the waste paper or an actual motif and your pencil and simply fit them in that extra space and trace it there. Move it over, trace it here, and you've got 2 more flowers. So instead of just 2 flowers, you now have 4 flowers to work with. So that's just an idea. Again, I edited it out, which means I wasn't going to use the word sun in the original project that I made, but maybe you can figure out a way where you can use the word sun in the original project. All right, so we've got the fun manipulated down. This, I'm gonna go ahead and just let the flower fall away. I'm gonna set this aside over here. Again, this, you decide whether is that waste, and I'm gonna toss it. Am I gonna do something creative with it? Something that I haven't talked about yet is, once this is all die cut out, you could take the word sun out, and this square could actually be stitched on something fun, because once you see it stitched, you can still read the words, F-U-N, S-U-N with a flower. So maybe you've got a creative way to use that up. And that's why I've included that in your project. The next thing is I'm going to remove the waste paper. That's this yellow and white gridded portion from the flip-flop. And of course you want to remove it from both of them. And then I'm going to place the flip-flops down. Again, you decide what angle they're going to be at, how you're placing them on the kit. Remember to keep that 1/4 of an inch away. And for right now, I'm just going to set them like that. And then finally, we've got flowers, and I call them stacked flowers because I've got them one on top of the other. This prefused strap that I did for you, that's a stacked motif too, where you've got 1, 2 layers. Right now, we're just stitching on 2 layers, 3 if you count the blanket stitch for this particular project. Note that this circle will come out. You can toss it, you can put it somewhere fun, you can use it. I often will put it back together sort of, because I want this to lay flat, and I will lay it there as an example, again staying a 1/4 of an inch away here, 1/2 to a 1/4 of an inch away here, and then I'll stack my coral color right on top of it. I'm not getting a real good view of the coral color, meaning my color is off, but you know it's not orange because you see this is definitely orange and this is coral. It's kind of a red with a little bit of a pinky hue to it. And then I offset these and stack them, so you decide how you want them. And those are the motifs that I've used for your fun pouch. The word fun, the completed flip-flops, and the 2 flowers. And again, I did stack that red piece back in there. You might want to do something fun and put the green center back into the red one and the red center back into the green one. We'll end up stitching through the center of this, so you can decide what fun things you might want to do with that. At this point, we have them placed, and I'm going to say again, position and reposition. I'm going to actually, in step 4, encourage you to walk away from the project for a few minutes, come back and look at it again, look at it farther away than just the 10 or 12 inches of sitting right next to it. That's a perspective view, and that way it'll let you kind of look it over. Does it look even across the motif? Do I have too much blank space here? Maybe I do. Maybe I want to swing my fun up a little bit, or maybe I want to cozy it up a little bit higher and move my F in a bit at an angle, maybe move my N in. You decide, but as I look at it, I see this much blank space, about an equal amount here, and nearly an equal amount here. So I would be happy with that, and I could live with that particular design. So it's at this point that we're going to go on to step 5, and we're going to talk about fusing the motifs. And again, this is where you're going to need, in step 5, you'll need to have access to an iron on a cotton setting and water, either in a spray bottle or just like a half a coffee cup full of water, and then a press cloth. And the press cloth is just a piece of lightweight cotton fabric that you can get wet. And I'll see you in the next video for pressing step 5.